Welcome to Made for Mondays, the source for digging a little deeper into the Believers Church Sunday messages and finding ways to apply them to our daily lives. Together, let's take a deeper look and find a way to bring Mondays back to life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the pod. My name is Heather, and who are y'all?
Hey guys, I'm Sam.
Would you like to go first?
Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, my name is Doug.
And I'm Lauren.
Hi, how is everybody today?
I'm great. These last two podcasts have been fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, just new people in here.
I
Yeah.
know.
Joe and Rochelle last week, and
Right.
Doug and Lauren. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Very fun.
And we have Timmy behind the
I
desk.
know.
Yeah.
Timmy's
At the
here
producer
today.
desk.
And
Producer
I guess
desk.
we can't really see this, but Timmy has the best mustache in the
it's
entire
so
world
He
right now.
does. Yeah.
Timmy's, Jeremy's trying to, but
Oh, Jeremy got upset.
yeah.
He said, okay.
Timmy's mustache just makes me never want to try to have a mustache.
You should grow one
It's
really
I
quick.
can't.
No, he
it's
can't.
so
Sam
bad.
can't.
I tried. It's awful.
Is it almost March? Mustache March?
Yeah, I think that's
It's coming
what it
up
is.
soon, right?
Yeah.
Soon. It was just
March.
March.
I know. That's the funny thing. That's the
And,
joke.
Oh, that was
and it's
March.
supposed to be
May.
November, right?
Huh?
And it's supposed to be November.
No shave November.
Yeah, that's
Mustache
different. That's just
March.
everything.
Oh, they call. I don't
you
know
could
about
do mustache May.
That's true.
It's not too late.
You
Yeah.
got
we
It is
still-
it is way too late. On those things, I got to start.
Start
I
You
got
have
to start
to
in the
start day
summer
one.
for November. No shave.
Then you
People
can-
wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
know how
so
got
glad
on
we
that.
don't do that
Yeah.
for women.
Very
That's
good.
not.
Well, some do.
Yeah,
Oh,
some
no.
do.
Just saying. Some do.
I am
guys wanna talk about
I'm
that?
also glad that you guys don't do that. Oh gosh, what a start!
What a start.
What a start. It's a gray, gloomy Monday again.
Yes, it
I'm
feels like
over
most
it.
of the weekend. Although yesterday was so nice out. It was
Yeah.
the perfect weather day yesterday.
It was the
Yeah.
perfect day
Yeah, it was like 71, like a great breeze. The windows open.
for some
I-
of the day.
All
Was
awesome
inside
sports
all
were
day.
on.
I know, man. I
What
don't
a
think I
day.
went outside at all
We were
yesterday.
very busy.
Really?
Day was so crazy busy yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You missed out then.
Missed
I
it.
did. I missed the perfect day. What
Missed
oh, man.
it. You missed the perfect day.
What else is there?
All right. Well, what else did you do for the weekend?
Oh, so the weekend, it was very fun for some of my family. Annabelle had a late birthday party with some of her friends, and they went and did an escape room.
Yep.
And just them, and they did it. It was great.
That's
They had
Oh,
to,
good.
No help?
So,
No, they gave them help, and they gave them 2 extra minutes because I think the lady felt bad for them.
Oh,
so
that
yeah,
was
so they were
nice.
trying their best though.
I just saw a bumper sticker. Somebody had a bumper sticker that said "I escaped," and it was like an escape room thing. And I was like, they're really proud of that.
for a
They
bumper
put,
sticker.
they put it on their car.
Wow.
I escaped. I was like, well, I mean,
Maybe they own the escape room.
yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, that would be.
Because they were so happy about it.
Maybe it was like the hardest one, and it's like world famous for being impossible. And it's like, oh yeah, we did
Yeah.
it.
That was
Or
like,
they were in an actual room.
yes, or they did escape from something.
Yeah, they escaped from
Yeah.
somewhere.
But you guys remember when the broken egg, like you could put it on like a bumper sticker
Yeah.
and you would get like a free appetizer
Oh, yeah.
or something. And I was like, people really wanted that appetizer because
Yeah.
those things were everywhere.
Everywhere.
And they
Yes.
were like the bumper stickers that you can't just like, this wasn't a magnet.
Permanent.
Yeah,
Right.
it was
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Anyways.
Yeah, so
was
they
great.
did that. I forgot what I was talking about. They did that, and
Escape
it was
room.
super fun.
Yeah.
And then we taught on Sunday, and then we had a really good next gen training last night.
Oh, you guys
So-
did have a busy day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
very long day, but
Yes.
very good, very encouraging. And it's the kind of day you get to the end and you're tired, but you saw so many wins happening. You're like excited.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was very cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Because I was like, first I was like, why did they not go outside at all? But I forgot you guys were doing your
It was
training.
a big,
Yeah.
longest day.
Great
of the year.
schedule.
That's why we missed the best day
Like,
of all
okay,
time.
well, we're teaching on Sunday. What else should we do?
Add a training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Let's just
Yeah.
do it all.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was very cool.
Did you do anything, Lauren?
Yes, we went to a Tides game on Friday night.
Oh,
You
fun.
guys love the
And-
Tides.
I mean, when you get a free ticket,
Yeah.
who's
You
going to
gotta
say
go.
no to that? So that was really fun. They won, and it was chilly.
Yes.
Weirdly chilly Friday night,
Right.
which was fine because you don't want to be
May has
sweating
been
at a baseball
exceptionally
game.
chilly.
Yes.
Yes.
So we did that, and then Saturday, I kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday, but my B group, we met and we did a budget brunch, which sounds
Budget brunch.
real
Yeah.
nerdy,
Sounds
Yeah.
like a blast.
but we've kind of not been meeting regularly this season just because everybody's schedule has been really crazy, so it's been hard. But we've been talking about, a couple of us have been talking about how like we just have been struggling to get our finances and budgeting and all that on track. And then another couple of us like excel in that, and they're like, all right, we're doing a seminar. So we met at Knott's Coffee. We got our stuff, and then our friends live at Bridgeport, the apartments.
Yep.
So they got the conference room. So we were in the conference
Wow,
room, sitting around
amazing.
the
Yeah.
table,
That's super
Right.
cool.
presentation happening, computers out, learning all the things about the specific program.
Since they excel at it, did they use Excel?
No, Excel is of the past.
I love that.
What do you
Yeah.
guys use now?
Well, this is YNAB. You need a budget.
YNAB. Oh, okay. So no Excel.
No.
Mm.
So
It's a whole program, right?
it's a whole thing,
Yeah.
and it's not very intuitive. Like you need somebody who knows what they're talking about
Oh, okay.
to like walk you through it. So yeah, it was just really good. It was the first time we'd been together in a really long time. It's just I was laughing that this is like how we choose
Yeah.
to spend our Saturday morning
productive, though.
/ afternoon. But also, I think it's just a testament to our B group and like how we really try to do life together
Yeah.
in that way of like, yeah. And one of our friends brought their baby with them, like. Just what we do. So,
What was the app you guys use again?
YNAB.
YNAB?
You need a budget.
Budget. Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
We still use Every Dollar.
Do you?
Just from
Yeah.
back in
It's
the day.
similar.
It's so good.
It's like every dollar has a job.
Okay.
But it's different. I mean, it's a budgeting app,
Yeah.
so it can only be so different.
Oh, that's
but
cool.
it is a little bit different of how they do it. So we have 2 couples in our group who like use that, are wizards. So I'm like, I
Wow.
will do whatever. I
You're
don't
a
care.
wizard, Harry.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll do whatever budgeting thing. I don't really care. I just
Right.
need to get
So
Tighten
my
it up.
son and daughter-in-law are also in this B
Oh,
group.
nice.
And they were telling us yesterday at lunch that the one couple, he was like trying to be really chill as his most chill self for a little while, but then ended up standing up to present
Yeah.
this thing. And they were like, how long did you think you could sit? And he was like, I knew I would stand. I knew that I wouldn't be able to sit for very long and I would have to stand to do this. So
Yeah.
he was like very excited about
yeah.
helping his friends.
Yes.
And yeah, I just love that. Yeah, I love that about our B groups,
Right.
that like you can just become so like just vulnerable. It's like building on just what we've been talking about
Yeah.
for so many weeks now, like this vulnerability, this intimacy space that you can get to with these authentic relationships
Yeah.
of like, we're struggling in this area and we have these core group of friends that
Yeah.
are like not shaming you for
Right.
like needing some help in this. Like, these are the strengths that we have. We're coming alongside our friends
Yeah.
that need some help in this space, and
Yeah.
we're
Yep.
gonna do this together. I love it.
Yeah. So it was actually a lot of fun. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And like now I know like if we need help when we
Right.
actually sit down and do it. Ring ring.
Yeah.
How do I do this? Or
Yes.
yeah, we don't. Yeah.
Ring,
we
ring.
don't care. So I guess people don't do this
It's like,
anymore.
no, it's like a
either.
real phone.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's true. You ask generations, how would you show you're on the phone?
Yeah.
And it's changed from this to this.
Or even like now, like they hold it and it's all video chat or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're holding it all the way out here.
Yeah.
And then we can
so
all
you
hear
can
the
see
conversation.
ceiling,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
so you see the face.
Like, what are we doing?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Very cool.
So that was my weekend, and then everything we did yesterday.
Right. So good. Sam, what'd you guys do?
So we are in a bit of transition season.
Yes.
A couple things going on, but we've been blessed to live in a house the last couple years, and so we're trying to help them put it on the market because they're going to be selling it. So it's been weird. We were packing, but also trying to like stage a home. It's been a little stressful. Like the house looks amazing, but the garage is like filled with all of our stuff. I was like, the selling point's not gonna be the garage. You can't go in there right now.
Right.
So they started showings this weekend. So we're kind of like, we've just kind of been put out. So we have the dog. So like sometimes we just take them for a walk. But on Saturday they did an open house. So we took one of the dogs to a friend's house. That was great. And we went to a movie. I haven't been to a movie in forever.
Oh yeah.
And we saw, what's it called?
If
Oh, yeah. So Jamie and Emma went to If, the new whatever that is with
Imaginary.
Ryan Reynolds. And we went and saw Fall Guy.
Oh, dude. Okay.
With Emily
Gosling.
Blunt and
Ryan
Ryan Gosling.
Gosling.
Yeah. It was funny because I'm not sure everybody in that theater knew it's a comedy. Because I think they thought it was like a real just like action movie, but it's a huge comedy.
Okay.
And so me and Addie are like laughing at everything because it's just dumb one-liners. And people I think were getting a little like the rest of the theater was silent. And we're laughing at parts that are funny. So like
But they
halfway
didn't think it was
halfway
funny.
through, yeah, there was like older people behind us that were like
So you guys
I
were
literally heard them
obnoxious.
say, I don't think it was that funny. Which Addie was being very obnoxious. I of course was not.
Oh, right.
But it was, I mean, it's an at-home movie. It's a rental. I wouldn't go to the movie. It was
same.
good, but
Caleb
Did you guys go see it?
We went last
Okay,
weekend.
yeah.
He loves a movie. Like,
At a movie theater.
at
you
a
mean?
movie.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
something
Any
special
movie.
about
And
that.
I like to see like movies that I'm excited about in the theater, but he's like, he would get the subscription,
Right.
honestly.
I
So
love
he's like,
that.
hey, let's go, date night, blah, blah, movie. I'm like, okay, sure. So we went and saw Fall Guy.
Okay.
And
It's a clean
and he
movie,
was
too.
like,
Like, it
yeah,
was-
it
it
was
was a good movie,
fine.
yeah.
And he was like, did you like it? Because I'm always like, meh, with movies. And I was like, yeah. I said, I could have seen it at home. I
yes,
coulda-
1000%.
It wasn't a rush to the theater.
Yeah, we've set up our house too, like with the surround sound and like a big enough TV that honestly, like I like the speaker right on my ear now. And so this wasn't IMAX.
Yeah.
So it was,
Yeah.
I was like, can you guys turn the volume up a little bit?
Right.
Like I feel like I'm missing some scenes here. But we got in there and of course we snuck things in, of course. I don't.
Yeah.
But the rest of my family think it's hilarious to take like pop in or whatever.
Like
I don't know if
full-on
that's going to
meals.
get us arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to sneak like subs
some
from
candy
Subway
and
and
stuff,
stuff like
you know?
that. It was great. Like,
Are
how-
you
Heather's
serious?
so offended right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't approve of that.
Oh,
at all,
Jamie's
you
got her
guys.
big old backpack
Nope.
on and just loaded up. And it's like, it's not
I
even
don't
closed.
approve.
Yeah.
Well, this got us. So I didn't. I buy my popcorn and I got a bottle of water at the theater. I'm not going to be part of these crimes.
Right.
Gotta support
Crimes.
local
So,
theaters.
no
like
joke.
AMC
We
and all
get in
that.
there and Addie opens her pop and it like I hear when you hear it just from the
yeah.
first fizz and I was like, oh no.
No.
And that thing goes kaboom. All over Mason. Mason's sitting there and now we're like dying laughing. It's like all over the seats. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. And so like we were like cleaned it up, but it was so sticky. Super sticky, bro.
Is that in the beginning?
Yeah, it was like
So Mason was-
previews didn't even start. Yeah,
Nice.
and Mason is just the worst at movies because he's just not into them.
Yeah.
But he tries to act like he's gonna be, and he's asleep.
Yeah.
30 minutes in, but
He fell asleep.
he did. But he like Addie kept bumping him, so he'd like wake up and keep watching. And he doesn't laugh at anything. He's just like
Yeah.
the whole time.
Just staring
And
at
then he
it.
gets done. Like, did you like that movie? He's like, yeah, it was really good. I loved it. And I was like, but you didn't show any emotion at
It's all
all.
on the inside.
Yeah.
Laughing in my
my
head.
gosh.
But yeah, so that was fun, and then we just kind of hung out. So we've just kind of been back and forth in and out of the house as much as we can
Oh, man.
for all the showings. So
Yeah.
it was good.
Well, we had a kind of just a weird weekend because, well, my husband has the house listed, so he was doing the open house this weekend, and we have John Reimer staying at our house because he's our missionary from Brazil, Word of Life. So he's
Yeah, Nate was
staying
like-
with us this weekend.
Nate, I leave my house. Well, it's my house for another month, but we leave, like the whole family leaves, and he sends me a text, hey, how do I get golf on? I was like, so I have to leave my house, find something to do for 3
can watch
hours,
golf.
and you're going to sit on my couch and watch golf on my TV. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he couldn't figure it out. He could not figure Xbox out, so we had to FaceTime him.
It's eternally.
Oh, it was like such a boomer.
That's
He's
awesome.
gonna love that on this. Yeah, no, hit the Xbox button. There you go. Now hit B.
Right.
Click on my profile. No,
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
kid's profile. My
Yeah,
profile,
yeah.
please.
Oh, it was so funny. Sorry, that was.
No.
He was part of my weekend.
He was.
Frustrations.
You've been kind of frustrated with Nate lately.
Yeah, he's been on something. I don't know. It's not making me happy.
Yeah, poor Nate. Nate's a good guy.
He
I
is a
feel
good
like,
guy.
yeah.
He is a sweetheart.
He is.
He's gonna love this intro to this podcast.
All right. So, Bible reading challenge. We were reading Matthew 18 and 19 today. Matthew 19 is actually a big part of this next week's message. Jamie talks
Correct.
about it a lot
Yeah,
for
yeah.
this next week. But did anything stand out to you guys?
I mean, you guys brought your Bible,
Yeah,
so
no.
you got to have something over there.
Well, how convenient that Jesus
Oh, look at these.
Oh, look at
talks about divorce and marriage the week that we talk about singleness.
Right.
How convenient is that?
Yeah, and there's actually like a really weird passage in here
We've
that
talked
Jesus
about
talks
this
about.
passage a lot, so
Yeah.
this is our observation.
Okay,
Yeah.
bring it.
So it's in Matthew 19, and starting in verse 11. So Jesus is talking about marriage and divorce, and then he kind of puts this thing at the very end. It's like a stipulation almost, right? Do you want me to read it, Lauren? Or?
Got you. Yep.
So my translation is the NASB, so it words it a little bit different. But Lauren's is really good too, so maybe we can read both.
Okay.
So he says this: not all men can accept this statement, and he's talking about the marriage and divorce,
Yeah.
right? But only those to whom it has been given. For there are eunuchs who were born that way from their mother's womb.
Yep.
And there are eunuchs who were made eunuchs by men, and there are also eunuchs who made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. He who is able to accept this, let him accept it. And at the very end, the accept it is like the teaching on marriage and divorce. So if anybody is able to accept this, go for it.
Yep.
But there are situations where this doesn't apply to somebody, and that would be the eunuch. And he says some people are born that way. Some people are made that way by men, like through castration. And then some people choose to be this way so that they can just thrive in God's kingdom. And that's a very interesting kind of little segment there.
Yeah.
My translation, instead of
Which is
the
which
last
translation
one,
are you
NLT.
reading? Okay.
Instead of make themselves eunuchs, it says some choose not to marry for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. So we were talking about like that discrepancy, and you had an interesting explanation for how you think the NLT is kind of getting more to the heart
Oh, yeah. So
of the passage.
when Jesus says like some eunuchs make themselves eunuchs, I don't think he's talking about like changing their bodies. He's talking about, and I think he's talking about just a decision to live in celibacy so that they could, be a part of God's kingdom in that way. It's almost like for some people, this way of life is more beneficial for them.
Yeah.
They've chosen celibacy. They've chosen to live that way so they can honor God with their bodies and honor the other person as well. And that's just like, it's a really cool passage about singleness that doesn't get talked about because it's talking about it in a way that's like, in our culture, it is very different. Nobody talks about eunuchs nowadays.
Well,
So,
because it doesn't say single.
yeah.
It's got this eunuch, and we associate that maybe a little bit differently than this passage intended.
Right.
Yeah. So it would have been somebody who just either is doesn't have a sexuality, like asexual, or somebody who is purposefully living in celibacy so they don't have that as a priority in their life anymore. So yeah, very interesting.
And that it hits on the same week that you guys were teaching.
Yeah.
Right.
How wild is that?
I was like, well, how convenient.
Yes, so good.
Yeah. In writing our message, I think we actually talked about
did.
using that passage, and I was like, oh, that would be so
gotta get
difficult
into
to
a
talk
lot.
about. Yeah. Let's just not worry about that. And then here it is.
Right.
You get 35 minutes and you got to like break that whole thing down.
Yeah.
Right.
Boy, that was it was so crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, very cool
Yeah.
passage.
So you guys, your message yesterday was so great. And I loved even seeing just some of the chatter on social media afterward, just how people really appreciated that it was the two of you and just the style of the message, that it was more of this conversation. So before we get into kind of our script here, why was it that we did this style? Like, this was something that came up in our teaching team. We discuss, we've talked about it on the podcast a lot. Like, it's not just like we have one person that comes up on stage and presents a message. We have a whole team around how we do our services, and then we have a whole teaching team. So how was it that we kind of decided this was the approach that we wanted to take this week?
Yeah, so we were talking about all of the different things with family issues, and singleness was one we wanted to cover. We want to make sure we address every single person in the room, and we know singleness is a big topic. A lot of people are trying to figure out. So I think we were actually talking about it as a teaching team, and we said, "Oh, cool! I'll take that week, and then let's see if Lauren could help." And we didn't really know what it looked like at first. And as we were saying that, Lauren, you walked into our
I
meeting
literally
space.
like walked through the meeting and said, "Do not walk in." And I was like, "There's no other path. I have to go." So I like walked through. I'm like, "Don't. I'm just not." And Doug was like, "Oh, how? Hey,
Yeah, how appropriate.
Yeah.
So would you be a part of this? I
Yeah.
think you said yes immediately.
yeah." I was like, "Yes."
Did you regret that?
Okay, so this is interesting. I Okay. I like when I get to share something that's on my heart, because I feel like if it's like a word that God has given me for my life, then it's got to be applicable to somebody. It can't just be me, I hope. So I enjoy that. But it takes so much time and energy and effort. So it's like a stressor in a good way. I didn't feel like I don't want to do this, but it was, take it seriously and make sure you're prepared. And and it was interesting because like I couldn't just practice by myself because we did it together. So we had to like carve that time out here, especially to be able to make sure that we practice together.
And then yesterday morning, we just had so many tech issues.
We did.
That was
There was some kind of power
crazy.
surge like last Saturday night or something. So I felt bad for Lee. He was sweating,
was.
running around trying to
Yeah.
get everything back up. So then I was like, oh, it's Lauren's first time. Like we just, there's just a lot going on.
like,
But
what?
you guys did great with it.
I think that's great though to know like there's so much that goes into a message that I think usually people don't realize.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like when we first started writing, we wanted it to feel like a podcast almost, like very conversational. So like in our favorite podcast, you have somebody who's explaining something and the other person is always asking good questions. And it's almost like they're the voice of the audience. So I love Bible Project. They do this really well. You have Tim Mackey who's doing like the Bible discussion. And then John is asking the questions that I have. He's like, wait a second, what does that passage mean?
Yeah.
Or, man, that doesn't make any sense to me. Can you explain that again? And I so appreciate that. So when we were writing it, we wanted it to have that feel. So when one of us was explaining something, the other person was ready with a question.
Yeah.
Because we knew that's what hopefully people were wondering.
Yeah.
And we wanted to invite them into it so they could feel like they were either one of us at any
Right.
given moment.
Yeah.
And we had people come up to us afterwards and said like it felt like a conversation. So I
you
think
for
like
sure captured
mission
that.
accomplished.
Yeah.
It was great.
Definitely.
And it helps that we literally work together every single day.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Sit
definitely.
desks right next to each other. So
Yeah.
it's organic in that way
Definitely.
too.
I can say for
Great
me,
word. That's a great word. Very organic.
for me, it was so helpful just in writing. We opened up a Word document and shared it with each other immediately. So we were like live writing it together. Like this is what I want to say, and I see Lauren adding stuff that she's saying up here, and it was such a cool process of writing. And I think for me, it forced me to really think about my audience much more than I usually do, because I'm now thinking about what would Lauren think of this? What would she say? Is this going to set her up well to have a good discussion topic?
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, I don't know, just like another layer of writing with intentionality to make sure that I'm speaking to my audience well. So, man, it was such a cool
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
Do you
And-
feel like? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you feel like Doug, because you normally write your own messages? Like, did you have to put more time? You definitely had to put more time into it. You felt
Yeah.
like,
Like, I don't know if it was like more time, but like very different
yeah.
approaches in ways.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it was so difficult, because it was brand new.
Yeah.
But it was so good and so rewarding to see like a new way of doing something like
Yeah,
that.
that's cool.
So, man, it just stretched my understanding in a lot of really cool ways. So
I
man,
loved that.
So appreciate it.
We talk a lot about, I mean, all of us who teach regularly, and Lauren, you do, but just in Next Gen.
Yeah.
So, but like we talk about still how like we all have even Jamie, like we all go to stage with a level of like nervousness
Yeah.
just because of the weight of like what we're talking about all the time. So there's but Doug, yesterday you and I like hit our office space at the same time, and you were like, oh my gosh, I'm always nervous, but like I'm sweating so much right now. I was like,
We were both real clammy all morning. Very pleasant.
so great. But yeah, just you speaking about the audience. I mean, that's one thing that we're constantly like trying to talk about in preparation of any message and any series that we're going into. Like our team works really hard to be mindful of like, who are we speaking to? What is our audience looking for? And I mean, audience is not even really like the right word that we want to use. Like, what is our church family looking for? What are they experiencing right now in life? Like, what is our culture experiencing right now? And we were very intentional about that with this series, and even ahead of time. Like, we did the survey. We've mentioned the survey a couple of times. And so to start off, Rochelle, even in the welcome, mentioned some of the stats. We mentioned some stats last week, and you guys went over stats again in your intro part. So, you kind of talked a lot about the single person, and you defined singleness, which I thought was really helpful to set up who was in the room, to understand who you were really directing this conversation toward and who we should be mindful of. Because even for the non-single person, we have single people in our spheres. And so can you just kind of capture that again for us as we go into this discussion now? Like who is single for our purposes of this conversation?
Yes. A single person for this conversation is anybody unmarried. So we included people who are dating, like committed dating relationships, engaged. We included people who are not interested in dating at all, people who would like to date, just don't have that right now, people who are casual dating, actively dating, those kinds of things, anybody divorced, and anybody widowed. I think that was all.
Yeah, I think that cleared. That was obviously super important to do
Yeah.
because I think when even Rochelle in the welcome threw out the whole 48%, which was kind of just like a little,
Teaser.
a little teaser. I think most people are like,
Nuh-uh.
what? There's no way. Like, so you guys getting to that was really good.
Yeah, and I also love that you gave permission for people to like not want to date.
Yeah.
Like that it's totally fine to be like, I want to be okay with like being a eunuch.
Yeah.
Like I want to like that's not a space that I want to be in. I don't want to be pursuing a dating life right now. And I think we've done a not so good job of allowing people to be comfortable in that space. Can you guys talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, that's so relevant right now. Like just recently, there was a big dating, online dating app that had this huge blunder. They were doing like a billboard campaign to try to raise awareness of their dating app. And the billboard said something like, come on, everybody, celibacy is not a good option or something like that.
Because if you're being celibate, then you're not using our app.
Yeah. And you want to be dating, you want to find somebody. Celibacy is not
And
an
it was
option.
playful.
So everybody saw that, and people who are choosing to be single were very hurt by that. And there's this huge backlash, right? So the dating app apologized, they pulled down the billboards, and they said, I'm so sorry, we meant it as a joke, but we understand now that it's actually harmful in a way. And I think that's where people are right now. There's this idea of like the waiting room experience, right? It's so difficult sometimes to be in that place. And when people kind of poke fun at it or make it seem like this is not a good option for you, like this, you would much rather be with this person, right? People are like, no, man, like that's not where I'm at.
Yeah.
And we need more encouragement around that and more support for those people in that place.
Like you can't be a whole person, whole self
Yeah.
unless you're partnered with someone else is like not a good message.
Not a good message.
Yeah.
Even if it's playful, it's like, no, this is like something that we need to take seriously.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is you don't see very many examples of people who do that and do it well, who either choose not to get married or never get married, whatever the case may be. Like there's not a lot of examples of people in general, I think, that choose that and are open about choosing that and like lead in that example. So when you're looking, a young person, wherever stage you're in, you're looking at whatever's next, you see, what do you see? You see couples, you see kids, you see like all of those things. So it's definitely a cultural construct, Christian construct, but I would say just cultural in general, that's kind of the expectation. I think culture is kind of shifting away from that in a way. And then when you look at scripture, like it's very clear that Paul and Jesus are like, yeah, you don't have to get married. It's totally fine. Yeah. Honestly, your life's going to be a lot easier to serve Jesus if you choose not to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Lauren, you kind of led us off in the message, and we're talking about your singleness. How did you become the singleness expert? How did you gain that reputation?
Like, don't date.
Right.
That wasn't a choice either. No, I just, it's so funny. So like when I was in high school, my dad's like made a rule that I couldn't date until I was 16. And when he told me that, when I was like maybe 12, I was like, oh, you're the worst dad in the world.
Right.
I didn't date anyone till I was like 17. You know what I mean? I didn't even have that. So it was just funny to me. But yeah, I went to Liberty University, which is a Christian college. And there's the running joke, probably still is there. You get your MRS degree. So you go there, you find your person, you start your life together, blah, blah, blah. No shade.
Doug also went there and found his
but
person.
it is
Well, you
like
guys-
there is such pressure, and I remember Jerry Falwell teaching from Convocation from the stage, saying like, "You'll meet your spouse here," and like the amount of pressure that puts in people. I can't leave this place without my special someone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It took
And-
me way too long to figure out what you meant by MRS
Oh, yeah.
degree.
Oh,
I just figured
Mrs.
it out.
Sorry.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
Let me clarify,
Got it.
Mrs. So I, was going to school in that arena. I didn't have I dated every now and then, but I didn't have like too significant of relationships in that. I made my best friends that I probably will ever make in my life. Two of my best girlfriends still that we talk regularly and meet each other. That's where I met them. So like, I know that my reason to go to Liberty wasn't for my person. It was because the Lord needed to strengthen my faith and build these really important, intimate friendships in my life. And then I moved home, and I was a teacher. So I moved home, I think I was 22. And I lived with Heather's sister for a while, and we were both single, living it up, doing the things. But it was really weird me coming home. Like, I grew up in this church, and now I'm coming back, and I was like, I don't know where I fit in this. Heather and I are similar in a lot of these ways because we're like, okay, so if I'm not supposed to, like, lead and teach and do all these things that I literally was wired to do, like, it just was this real weird tension. Mm-hmm. So I did like a lot of things, and then it kind of came to a head. It was at the Orange Conference, 2018. This is a marker of my life. I had this like weird, I can only experience, this is the only time I've ever experienced it, but it was this weird like bubbling. And it's the Holy Spirit, apparently is bubbles to me. I don't know.
I was like, that's indigestion.
No, not indigestion. I know what that is.
Oh, okay.
It was just this weird, like, I don't even know. And it had been simmering for a while. And then it kind of like broke to the surface at this conference. And this is the first time actually Jeremy and I became friends too. We didn't know each other, but he was literally like sitting here for this conversation. And he was probably just like, I can't leave. That would be weird. So I'm just going to sit here.
Yeah,
But I was serving in For Real at the time, and I like word vomited on Doug. And I was like, these are the things I feel like. I feel like I'm gifted in this area, but I'm a lady and I'm single. I don't get how they go together. Like, I feel these tensions and blah, 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 blah. And Doug was like, yes, yes, yes. So instead of being like telling me what to do, he was like, yeah, it's totally like, I get that. And then when we came home, it was really cool because he heard me and like started giving me more leadership opportunities, and started like bringing me to the table for conversations. And yeah, it's just been like a whole thing. But yeah, it's been a long road of just kind of like fighting in a way of like, this is how I'm wired. I don't have a spouse, so it's like weird to like have friendships with these guys, and I feel called in this way. So yeah, it was just turmoil 20s in a good way. Like, it wasn't anything bad, but yeah. So I'm just very passionate about it because it shaped me in a lot of big ways, but also it was a very difficult part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So y'all kind of went from there, just kind of letting Lauren kind of set the stage for giving voice to single Lauren, even though she's no longer single.
She's no longer with us.
And y'all went through a list.
It sounds so very Taylor Swift, like this era.
Are you surprised?
The era story.
I didn't want to say era because then I thought I'd get eye rolls. But is it an era? Absolutely.
It's so funny.
So So y'all went through a list of phrases that a lot of people tend to say to singles in their lives, and they're coming from like well-meaning spaces. And isn't that true of a lot of these kinds of things that are said to people? And I know I was a little pinged when you first read them to our team in the read through, because I know I've said one or two of them to people that I love. But can you share why you wanted to share these at the beginning of your message? Like, why was it important to put that out there before getting into the rest of what you wanted to talk about yesterday?
Yeah, it's cool because I think when we were writing this message, we wanted to make sure we were speaking directly to singles, but also directly to married couples as well. And in my mind, to kind of like in a playful way show the tension between the two groups.
Yeah.
That married couples, you want to do what's right and you want to help, but there are times that we are not helping. And to do that in a playful way, I think it's a little disarming. And I think it kind of levels the playing field and hopefully interacts with people wherever they're at. Because I've said a lot of those things too. Like, you have so much time to spend with Jesus, and Jesus can lead you in that. Like, don't be distracted, right? It's like, oh man, but some of these things are not helpful in a way. So I hope it was a way of just bringing people into the conversation and raising awareness of the gap and the divide that can happen between these two groups of people.
And there was more we didn't include.
Oh, yeah.
We had so many.
Well, the list is long, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that did exactly what you wanted to do, because that led right into the other thing that is shared between the two groups, and that is this waiting room experience. You know, and that was such, I think, just I mean, Nate and I this morning were talking about the message again, and that is so relatable. This idea. I mean, you've been in it. You've been talking about it too recently.
Right.
Like, and Lauren, your transparency about the shared experience that you're in now. Like, you're in a season again of like this waiting room. So I think just kind of talking through that.
Yeah, it was interesting because when you guys read it in worship planning, I mean, the topic's singleness. So if you're not single, I think the first thing easy to do is check out. Like, it's easy to check out in church anytime, but that, I think it just gave a little bit even more of just like, okay, worship's done. Like, I'm just gonna, but I felt like when you guys got to the waiting, which you got there pretty quick in your message, like that, of course, like I've been in a waiting just for a bunch of things in life, but I think that, as Heather was saying, that finally, I think, struck a chord. Was like, it drew people in. Like, you got through the funniness of some questions that, that single or married couples or whatever would ask somebody. And then I feel like that's where it locked in for the message. I feel like we're like going through like the film study of a football game after the game. I feel like we're doing that with your message right now.
That's so helpful.
Yeah, but I just think it was like, for me, that's where it that's where I really like kind of, that was the lean in moment for me yesterday.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. So I just want to spend some time there right now talking about that a little bit more, like just those general feelings of waiting. And if you have some more things that you want to say about that, that you didn't get to say yesterday, or Sam, if you want to weigh into that too, just like, what those experiences have taught you, what those experiences have, like what you're going through right now in those seasons, and what you're able to, how you're able to come alongside people in those seasons now because of what you've learned.
But first, it's like, why can't doctors' offices figure this out?
Yeah, truly.
Like, I'm being dead serious. You know how many times, like, the kids, especially, I feel like it's worse with taking the kids in there, because, like, it'll be an hour after your appointment was supposed to be. Why can't we just figure out on our phones, like, hey, we're running 45 minutes behind. You don't have to be here till this time. That would be so much better. Why can they not do that?
That's your $1 million idea.
Yeah, like, why? There just has to be an app
software
for that. It's crazy.
You just throw it out to everybody. Someone else is going to do it.
I want somebody else to do it.
Can we edit that part out so Sam can create this?
It's ridiculous. Anyways, when you said the waiting room thing, that struck a chord with me.
Yeah, I think so. Everybody hates waiting. We know that, but waiting is so very important.
Yeah,
because it's a reality in life. We don't know what's going to happen next. Like, none of us. Like, we're waiting through today. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's in that place of waiting that God is able to teach us so many things. Like, the lessons in the waiting is a lot of times way more important than the destination. So he teaches us to rely on him. He teaches us to be content where we are, even in the time of waiting, to be content with what God has gifted us with and the blessings we have. And yeah, man, those times of waiting, they're so important to our faith. If we removed all the waiting, I don't know, like life would not be as rich anymore.
Yeah.
It would be shallow.
Yeah, I'm figuring out in this season. I am such a bad waiter. I'm terrible. Well, I would be a bad server too in an actual waiting situation.
There we go.
No, like I am so bad at it. It's been really challenging for me because what I'm noticing is like the stress that comes with waiting is way worse than I think any stress of like if you're just like hitting the ground, you're just doing what you're supposed to do. Like there's stresses, but of like not knowing what's next. Like it's scary, it's stressful. It's like having an effect on like just your attitude in life. Just like things that shouldn't be big deals, or like I was talking about this with my wife yesterday. Like things that should not be a big deal at all are like they turn into big deals.
Yeah.
And you're like, why am I so upset at this? And you're like, oh, it has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this waiting thing. But I will also say what you're saying, Doug, like it is so rewarding right now because just the little things of God showing up, it's just like, like I just feel like you're so in tune. Yep. But it's terrible. Like waiting is so bad. It's so difficult.
There's a book that's being talked about a lot right now called The Anxious Generation.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that's coming from that is talking about how the next generation, because of the phone, just has no ability to like not have instant gratification.
Right.
And that they can't deal with boredom. They can't deal with like having like something just be still and quiet for more than seconds.
Yeah.
And that goes into this idea of waiting. Like we just, even for adults in our culture right now, like we don't wait for anything. We can't wait for, we need call ahead reservations. We need to like show up at a restaurant and be able to sit down right away. Like we don't like to even wait to be sat for a reservation. Like we can't do it. And so like, to have to wait for anything to happen is like, we just don't have that in our chemistry anymore.
Yeah, we were supposed to, I was going to wait a little bit longer yesterday before the last song. There was just kind of like a piano playing. And even in that, I was like, oh, we got to start. I gotta start singing. Like this is too much. Like we don't wait for anything.
Yeah,
it's so crazy.
Yeah, this might be super nerdy, but I remember as a kid, we were waiting for your favorite show.
Yes.
So we had to like actually
Saturday
wait all
mornings.
week, and Saturday morning you wake up.
Right.
And I was super into Dragon Ball Z. And I remember like at the time they were just
Timmy's nodding over here. I can see him. I can see him out of the corner of my eye.
At the time they were just translating the first kind of like story arc in Dragon Ball Z. So we were getting like episodes from like Japan almost, and they were translating them, I guess, as quick as they could. I remember as a kid watching every Saturday morning, and you'd get to a certain point where they didn't have the next episode translated. So the next Saturday it would start at the very beginning. And as a kid, like, is this going to be the week that I get the new episode? And it doesn't hit, and you start at the beginning again. You're like, eventually one day I'll be able to see what happens next to Goku.
Right.
And it took who knows how long, but
we've now lost all of our listeners.
yeah.
Thanks,
But
Doug.
the waiting, I remember the waiting being exciting in a sense.
Yeah.
Like the anticipation. One day I'm going to see the next episode. It might not be for another 8 years, but like eventually I'm going to see it.
Yeah, that's a good
Interesting.
example.
Kids today don't have that.
No.
Waiting has never made me feel excited for anything. It's really interesting.
Maybe it's personality types, right?
Yeah.
I think that's safe to say.
Yeah, a 9. Do 9s like to wait?
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know
I'm
8
cool.
surely don't.
No.
No, I get like my default when I'm in these seasons is like real deep anger. And I'm an emotional person, but I don't like to show that. So it's a lot easier for me to like, I can't think about it. I can't deal with it. I just have to like lock it in a box, put it back over here. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to function.
Right.
Like I'm going to be a mess. I don't want to be a mess. Nobody wants to deal with a mess. I mean, you guys would probably be fine, but like, that's just kind of, I think, like how I've truly and honestly have operated for the last several years is just like, yeah, it's a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like if you start talking about it, crumble. Because you don't, I don't deal with the things.
Right.
I'm just like, I don't know, I'll deal with that one day.
Right.
It'll
Yeah.
come out. But it comes
And it's
out
true.
as,
It's like some days you're like, some days you like handled it so well. Like
Yeah.
you're like, oh man, because we like I know your story and like my story is like I'll wake up and like, oh, I feel great. Like, okay, I know God's got this, and you have a great day. And the next day, literally the next day,
Worst.
you can be like, oh, this is the worst. Nothing's gonna happen,
Right.
and I'm a failure. Like it's just, it is so crazy. But but God's working in both of those
Yes.
days.
Yes.
And I know that, like in my head, I know that.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's so hard
Definitely.
to like. It's
Yeah.
a different way you live it out each day.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Like for me, I want to be able to be like, find the joy in it, or like find the testimony in it, unless I'm having a really good day, I'm like, I don't care about that,
Yeah.
because this is just not good.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's very difficult. I think other people handle these things a lot better.
I
A
don't know
lot
if they
more
do.
grace and just wisdom, I think. But yeah, like I've experienced, I feel like this is just my life now. So, expert on waiting these days.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
that's what I'll say.
There you go. Well, maybe you're going to be the expert on waiting and you'll not be the expert on
Yeah.
singleness soon.
Well,
Maybe.
you know, either way, I'm fine. I'll wear that crown. I don't care.
There you go.
I love it. I loved that part of my life. I also like to say, because my sweet husband was like, I mean, you really talked about a lot how you loved the single part of your life.
yeah, jump
I
on
also really love being married. And I loved my husband. He showed me.
Yes, it was awesome. I said she was up there. They were both talking about how like now that I can see it, the blessing of singleness was
Right.
like it was such a blessing in that time. And I wrote to Caleb something about that. I was like, dang, Lauren's really loving that single
Right.
life.
Sent him a gift.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah.
But let me just say, I love my husband
Yeah.
very, 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 very much.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
How can
Yeah.
you not love Caleb?
Right.
Don't
Well,
know.
we just wrapped up the message series made for this, and throughout it, we learned that we were made for so much more than what this life has to offer us. But the memory verse that y'all chose for this message, John 10:10, is such a great continuation of that series. I just loved how it tied back to that. So, can you read that verse for us, please, Lauren?
Sure can. This is the NLT version,
Okay.
and we read the ESV.
But it'll be.
Oh, that's right, because of abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this says, the thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. My purpose is to give life in all its fullness. And we
That's
used
cool.
ESV because we liked how it said, give life and give it abundantly. We
Yes.
just liked that
Yeah.
word. Same idea, but
Yeah.
we liked that word more.
So that just like really tied into the big idea for yesterday, which was God's plan is to live abundantly and not restricted while in this waiting series. And then you just kind of walked us through these different ways that we can find abundance together, whether we're single or married. And so I would just like to spend the rest of our time today to just kind of talk through those a little bit, because you gave us some really practical ways that we could do that. And I loved those examples. So I just want to kind of talk about them a little bit more. So living in abundance and not restriction. So the first way that you highlighted that for us yesterday was through intimate community and not shallow community. And you said that married people can be intentional about lifting up single people and not living in transactional relationships. And Lauren, you referred to a reel that you saw. So if you can just talk us through that and kind of highlight some ways that that could actually play out.
yeah, I scroll on social media probably more than I should, and I saw like my
That
algorithm.
wasted time from last week.
Don't worry about that. Working on it.
It's invested time.
This was before that message.
Okay.
So, okay. I was scrolling and I saw a reel. It was like on Instagram, you know, and it fell into my algorithm. And it was a single Christian woman, and she, the title was like, "When I Get a Text as a Single Christian Woman." And then she proceeded for the rest of the reel just to share screenshots of texts from married people. Hey, so sorry, we are doing a last minute date night. Are you able to babysit? Or, hey, so can you watch our house for the weekend? Like all of these requests. And it was alluding to, and like her face was not amused, but it was like alluding to, I only hear from you when you need something from me because you think I don't do anything, or you think I don't have, like I have time to do this for you.
Yeah, like I don't have other responsibilities in my own life.
Yeah, and just feeling like used in that way and not actual relationship. My friend who actually she's single and she dog sits for me, she came up to me after the service. She was like, I just want you to know I don't feel that way. I was like, I didn't think you did, because I think we're friends. Like I feel like we're friends outside of like you watching my dog. But I remember having that conversation as a 20-something. I'm like, I don't even like your dog. Like, I don't want to hang out with them. Or just being asked to do things that I know my married friends my age never got asked to do. Mm-hmm. It's just very one-sided. And it's harmful because, single people aren't like the help for married people, and that's just not a healthy way to interact.
Another thing you talked about in that intimate community versus shallow community part was the tension of mixed orientation relationships. And I love this because I think it's something that we don't talk a lot about in the church, and it's because of the fear of that's been talked about so much in the church. So can you guys just talk about that a little bit more in a healthy way?
Yeah, no, this is a big one for me because for as long as I can remember, it's been instilled in me that I should be careful of a friendship with somebody of the opposite gender because it will lead to an affair, or it will lead to this destruction, or it will lead to these other things. So and that was told to me by pastors and by teachers and professors who were like, I have your best interest at heart. You cannot do this. So like growing up in ministry, I always just assumed this is like the danger zone. Like, don't go there. Don't even entertain that idea. And I think that was such like a harmful way of looking at relationships. Boundaries are important for sure. And you said that yesterday, like boundaries are important, but like to start off with like, this is danger. I think it's the complete wrong way of looking at that. Yeah. Because like if somebody is my sister in Christ, like I see them as a sister in Christ to the same level that I would want what's best for my actual sister. Man, I should have that closeness with a sister in Christ as well, in a healthy way with boundaries and all of that, but not viewing it as like danger. Stay away. This is not good for you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's a weird balance, isn't it? Like even like so this was probably the part of the message that I had to think a lot on. And I had conversations with my wife afterwards because it, like, as a married couple, and Doug, I hear that, and that's so true. Like that's been preached so often, but then you balance it with like, but there are like serious safeguards. So I don't feel like you guys did this, but it's not like a brush off of just like the safeguards in your marriage or whatever, and then just go and just hang out, whatever. Because it's just like you have to talk through like how does that actually if we're gonna apply this to our life, and try to have a relationship with people that are just single, which is completely fine. Like, how do you do that healthy? And you can't explain that in a 35-minute message, but like you have to have real conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think for me, my takeaway was I at least need to have a conversation of how to do that.
Yeah.
Instead of just brushing it off because it's way easier to just be like, well, that could potentially not be safe. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, no, let's have a conversation of how you said, like, brothers and sisters in Christ, how can that be better? So that's still something to think through.
Yeah, I think it's like, and I think it has to be something that you talk about with your spouse. I think it's something that, like, each couple is going to probably also have their own, like, boundaries that are, like, feel safe to them, depending on, like, whatever has happened in that marital relationship. Like Nate and I have a certain history that's going to shape how that's comfortable for us. But to like have this idea that like I can't have male friendships is not a healthy space to inhabit. Right. But like even for us on staff, like we have a code that like I am not traveling anywhere, even if it's down the street to Taste with Heather and a male staff, any male in my car, just the two of us. That's not happening. But like to say that like the males on staff are not my friends is also not a true statement. So like just those kinds of things are like you have to hold both of those things and be able to have those kinds of conversations, you know? So I think, we've gone from these extremes of like females and males that are not married cannot be friends. That's an extreme statement. But then to say that like females and males who are not married should like drive around town by themselves together, that's probably also not like the best choice. So like to be able to have conversations about that and how that happens.
And you even said like, so how do you include, spaces, I had a great question for you guys. So I was thinking about this. So you did the game night thing. You said the example that, you can be invited now. So I was thinking about that a lot too. I was like, well, yeah, that sounds terrible. Like that's just awful. But I also think like, if we're having like a game night, like with our friends, my friends are married, like they're all married. So it's just like, let's all get together. But I was thinking like, okay, is it weird for a single person is it weird if you're single and you're just showing up and most everybody's married, you just like jump into the game? I don't think it would be for me. I mean, like Jamie's left town before to go on vacation and I'll fifth wheel, whatever. Like I don't care. But I think my initial reaction or my initial thought is, I'm not going to invite them because it's not that I don't like them, but I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable but maybe that's not right. I don't know. It's just like,
I think relationship status shouldn't really be a factor. Honestly, I think like wherever your like friendships are, like carry that out as it feels natural. Like if you're getting close with a single guy and you're like, I'm having all my friends over, you're a friend, so come over. Like if you feel like it would be weird, you can let them know, just so you know, we're all married, but that doesn't mean I don't want you there. Like giving them that heads up, because for some people it would make them feel weird.
Right.
Other people are going to be like, I don't care. I love that you saw me and still invited me over.
I guess my question is definitely like just if it's like mixed couple, like if it's like males and females are all going to be there and most of them are married, like I think that's you answered it. Like, so just give a heads up so that people know what they're walking into.
Just
like if it's just guys watching football, like that's easy.
But I'm saying if it's couples,
I
think people still want to be invited to the thing,
Yeah,
even if they don't come.
Right.
That's one
they
thing
still want to be invited.
When we had lunch with the singles that go to church here, that's one thing we heard from them. Like, what's the one thing you wish that a married couple could do for you in the relationship? And a lot of them said, just include us more.
Yeah.
Like when we're going out with friends, don't just assume, okay, we're all going on like a triple date night. Like, don't make it a date night. Make it just a bunch of friends hanging out and include somebody to come with you. And I think if you go in that purposefully, like, okay, so we're including this other person, then it helps you to have conversations that are all about marriage or all about like kids or something like that. It allows you to purposefully kind of mold it so that they feel more included.
It's good.
So like, if you invited somebody over to game night, but you're playing like a couples game, super weird, right?
Awesome.
It kind of forces you to play a different game
or
to do something.
Trick them and make it a blind date.
Oh yeah, that's what
they would love.
What
That would
not
probably be
to
awesome,
do?
right?
Oh my god!
Surprise,
Game
and
night.
then play married couple games.
Yeah,
Newlywed.
it's like
The
speed dating.
newlywed games.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I love that too. Like that takes us right into that next piece, which was the accountability versus isolation. And you talked a lot about like the financial isolation, the relational isolation. And so as you were kind of walking us through that, you did lead that part with just asking them questions like, what do you need from this relationship and what can we offer you in this relationship? Like, those are great questions. And we've talked a lot about that and how do we have relationships with people that are different than us, whatever that is. And it's questions. Like, you just ask a lot of questions, right? So talk a little bit about that stuff. Like the financial thing is so good. The relationship thing is so good. If you just want to talk a little bit about the accountability stuff, how do you see that play out in this space?
Yeah, I think for married couples, that's where it gets almost like dangerous in a sense, because like you have to be really honest. To ask that question to a single person who's your friend, hey, what do you need from this relationship? It's a really important place of vulnerability that can be really, really tough. because you're probably going to hear things like, oh, what I need from you, stop trying to hook me up with somebody.
Yeah.
Stop telling me that I'm alone, but God is with me. Stop telling me these kind of like things that you think are
Or
encouraging, but aren't
start
encouraging.
inviting me over because you have these couples nights. I think we're friends, but I think you don't invite me.
Yeah.
Like, so I would like to go to those things. I'm not dating anybody, but I feel lonely because y'all are
Yeah.
hanging out Friday night and I'm just sitting at home
By myself.
Yeah.
doing nothing.
And it was like, I think, man, and when I said that, I was preaching to myself more than anybody else because like I'm really bad at that. And those conversations, I'm a little afraid of them.
Me too.
Because I'm afraid of what the other person might be feeling.
And
that
married
I've just,
couples,
like,
isn't it true? Like most of the nights that we're hanging out, even as married couples, like it's not like we're sitting around talking about our marriages.
Right.
yeah.
Like,
Not?
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know for like our friend group, a lot of times like the girls end up chatting in one room, the guys end up like watching TV or chatting in another room anyway. So like it's not like it's like this like marital bonding session
Yeah.
that's happening like when you're hanging out. So like it really wouldn't be that odd for like to have like another single person in the mix.
I when I was single had a couple, they moved. Miss them. But like it was truly like, hey, come over, hang out, literally wake up Saturday morning, come over, hang out with us. We're literally going to watch the football game and order Five Guys and do
Right.
the thing. And that's how it was. And like it was open door and it wasn't like wasn't weird. I didn't feel third wheelie. Like it was just kind of like, no, you're our friend. Like we're hanging out. If you're not doing anything, come hang out too. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's just
Yeah.
I haven't had a Five Guys cheeseburger in a long
I
time.
got hungry
Oh,
like
it's off
immediately.
the
That's
rails.
what the guys
Yeah.
are doing for
So
lunch
sorry.
today.
That's all
And
I
that's,
heard.
I love that too because I think it's like that true friendship. And
Yeah.
I would assume that you never felt like they were doing this out of obligation.
No.
Oh, we feel bad for single Lauren. We
Yeah.
have to invite her over.
No.
Yeah.
It was like an authentic relationship. And I think I know the couple you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they were good people. They are good people.
love them.
Yeah.
Miss them.
And that care is what you want to see in like that intimate community
Right.
and that accountability. Not like, oh, I got to do this now. We're going out. We got to call this person. But like, no, we love you and we care about you. So let's do this together.
I guess just genuine friendships, however they manifest,
Yeah.
is kind of what we're called.
And they were Buckeyes fans.
Yeah.
They are Buckeyes fans. So.
And the final
OH?
the final area
to do
was in the one that you said, even from stage, that you procrastinated on.
Yeah. I kept hoping. I was like, oh, we're out of time. Can we just, sorry guys, this prayer team's coming down to the front, everybody.
And
it
I
was
said,
the-
hey, guess who's not talking on that one?
Oh yeah, that was very fun when we started writing that
Seems
part.
like a
Lauren
lot.
was very clear, like, Doug, you
I'll ask
do all
the
these things.
questions.
the sexuality versus sexuality.
Yeah.
So anything you didn't have time to talk
Oh.
about
Gotta
on
fix that in
stage
post.
that you want to talk about now on the
was so
pod
pretty
in
as
this
well.
area.
We said the answer to that question was no.
Yeah, so I think it's just one of those topics that we don't talk about all the time, so it can be very difficult. And when we do talk about it, you can kind of feel tension in the room. When we were teaching that, yeah, I was so careful. Even like, who do I look at in the audience as I'm talking about this? Like, I don't want somebody to think like, oh, I'm talking right to this
Right,
person.
right, right.
No, I'm not.
Scan.
So it's just, yeah, it's such a weird conversation, but it doesn't have to be. And I love looking at when they wrote the letter to Paul. Like, I so wish we had that letter. I think it would have been so insightful.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's just really open, honest conversation. This group of people really wanted to follow Jesus, and there were very real struggles, and they're just looking for guidance and direction. And I love that intimacy in that. And I think, I don't know, I feel like it's difficult for us nowadays, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's different in our culture to have that conversation, or yeah,
I don't
know.
think it is different. I think what it teaches us and what this whole message is to me is just the importance of like friendships and mentorship.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what it all boils down to. And that like this kind of thing isn't even something that like even the message is, it shows us that like that can't be a thing that happens in a 35-minute message from stage to hundreds of people.
Yeah.
It has to be the thing that happens in like one-on-one or like small group kind of relationships that are like core kind of relationships that we're like in pursuit of Jesus together. And it has to be like, hey, let's like sit down and open God's word and like just try to figure this out together. Like I might not have all the answers and you might not have all the answers, but we can like open God's word and like try to learn together.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
that's good.
The awkwardness of that part is because if you don't, as a married couple, if you don't have any single friends, and vice versa, if you're single, don't have married friends, the sexual that would be it's so uncomfortable to even think about because you don't even, like you're saying, you don't even have a relationship at
Right.
so it's not just like you bring them over the first time and be like, so how's
How's your sex life going?
you know?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? Like, so if you haven't even like broached the idea of a relationship just as a friendship, like you
Right.
can't get into that next part.
I would like to add, it doesn't have to just be married people like mentoring a single person
Right.
about
Sure.
sex, because one of my best friends, college friend, that I mentioned earlier, she is so intentional. Like she doesn't do the surface level stuff. When we get together and she wants to know how I was doing, single, married, doesn't matter. She'll say, "How's your sexual integrity going? What's going on with that?" And you're like, okay. But it was like no, like when I say like we're tight, this is what I mean. Like,
Right.
and it's not I'm not gonna like, whatever your answer isn't like yay or ooh. It's like okay, well, let me walk with you through that. Let's talk about those things. So even when we were single, she did that together. She got married before I did. When she was married and I was single, she did that, and we're both married now. So we still have those conversations. So like she kind of like has been a really good
that's good.
model for me in my life of like when I say I'm seeking intimate friendship and like that's been established between me and someone else, like you have permission to just like open the floor to like these uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
Because again, like you should be talking about that
Right.
with someone.
Yes. Yeah, that's so good. Well, and on that note,
What an
Hey,
ending.
yeah.
that's all we've got time for
Sexual
today.
integrity.
So
Next Sunday.
we're continuing our family issues series this Sunday, but it is Memorial Day this weekend. So we are only having one service, and that is going to be at 10 o'clock. And then following that service, we are going to have an awesome cookout. So we hope that you're going to join us this Sunday and bring some family and friends to join you. Sam is trying to get into my shot.
I wish it was so you could just get the head. That would be so funny.
So make sure that you're here this Sunday. If you can't make it for the cookout, you can always catch us online at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on our YouTube channel, or you can watch any other time this week. But thanks for being here today, friends. Go and be love.